Hello, and welcome to Lessons Learned with Institutional Data Analytics, the October 9th WCET webcast. My name is Megan Raymond. I'm the Manager of Programs and Events here at WCET. Welcome, everybody. First, I'd like to thank Blackboard Collaborate for making the platform available. If you have any technical issues, please contact Blackboard directly. The speakers are the only people with mic privileges today, so please do communicate with us through the chat box. Feel free to add your comments, your questions, and then we'll get to your questions as we move through each section, as well as at the end of the presentation today. If by chance we don't get to all of the questions, we'll have the presenters provide written responses and send those out next week, along with a link to the recorded archive of the webcast, the PowerPoint slides, and any resources that are shared. Again, as you have questions, go ahead and enter them into the chat box. And today we have a wonderful panel. We have as moderator Matthew Milliron, who's the Senior Director for Client Services at Civitas, Karen Vignare from UMUC, and Jennifer McGrath from Rio Salado. So I think you'll really get a lot out of this conversation. Matthew, who will be moderating today, has over 15 years of ed tech experience. He's had numerous jobs, including leading technology programs in both education and nonprofits. He has previously been the CIO of EDUCAUSE, Chief Technology Officer for Rio Salado College, and Chief Information Officer for the League for Innovation in the Community College. Matthew has designed and taught courses in instructional design and master classes on technology use in the K-12 classroom. So as moderator, he will be introducing our presenters and helping field the questions as they come through. So please welcome Matthew.
Thank you very much, Megan, and thank you to all of you who have joined us today. Joining us today in the conversation are Jennifer McGrath-Fried from Rio Salado College and Karen Vignare from University of Maryland University College. Jennifer serves as the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Rio Salado College in Tempe, Arizona. Jennifer has been at Rio Salado since 2004 and has served as biology faculty as well as instructional designer, the faculty chair of e-learning design, and the dean of instruction and academic affairs. In addition to serving as a co-principal director for the Predictive Analytics Reporting Framework grants, she is the principal investigator for the Next Generation Learning Challenges WAVE 3B grant Rio Achieve. She also works closely with academic affairs leadership and faculty in the college on learning innovation. Her current projects include analytics, personalized learning, credit for prior learning, and competency-based education efforts. She's a Quality Matter peer reviewer and holds a PhD in instructional design for online learning from Capella University. Karen serves as the Vice Provost for the Center of Innovation and Learning at the University of Maryland University College, UMUC, leading the search and evaluation for next generation learning models. The Center for Innovation and Learning serves as the research and development arm of UMUC's academic organization. Dr. Vignare is responsible for identifying innovations and collaboratively implementing with core teams at UMUC. Areas of experimentation will include adaptive learning, onboarding, prior learning, course design, analytics, e-resources, open educational resources, and instructional design changes and competency-based models. She's been part of the online learning field for over 15 years. Previous to UMUC, she was a director of MSU Global at the Michigan State University. Karen has published research in online learning in areas such as business models, serving special populations, open education, blending learning, corporate training, and data organization. She has a PhD from Nova Southwestern University and an MBA from the University of Rochester's William Simon School of Business. Really happy to be on this panel today with such incredible advocates for this work that we're doing. As Megan mentioned, my name is Matthew Milliron, and I lead the West Coast Client Success Initiatives for Civitas Learning. At Civitas Learning, we're partnering with innovative colleges and universities like Rio Salado and UMUC to create comprehensive student success predictions around retention, course completion, and graduation. Our goal is to take the many disparate data sources such as SIS, LMS, CRMs, facility use data, etc., and create a comprehensive student data footprint that can be used to create institution and student-specific predictions to drive student success initiatives and organizational goals. We're learning throughout this process that the key to unlocking student success requires a better decision-making model. You must thoroughly examine each student story in real time and mine them for insights that can be used to inform a focused, timely action. This is what we call our better decision-making model. This model is supported by deep data analysis, specific institution predictions, and frontline applications that enable administrators, advisors, faculty, and even students to better understand and influence the factors that drive student success across the organizations. Our work with our partners includes deep dives into intervention science. How do we measure the intervention results? What interventions work and for which students? What interventions do not work, and how can they be altered or pulled from the process? We know there are no silver bullets for student success, so our work brings together a try and test methodology with our partners, an iterative development to achieve continuous improvement. We're going to get started right now, and we're going to hand the discussion over to Jennifer, who is going to speak about what they have been doing to this point with at Rio Salado College in Tempe. Jennifer?
Thank you, Matthew. As Matthew mentioned, I'm the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Rio Salado College. Rio Salado College is one of 10 colleges in the Maricopa Community College District in Arizona. Although many think of Rio as an online college, we do have locations throughout Maricopa County offering in-person and hybrid courses to special populations, including education service partnerships, working with local businesses to offer training for credit, dual enrollment students, college bridge students, and even incarcerated students. We serve nearly 60,000 students, and over half of which are online. When we talk about our analytics today, we are talking about our online population in our proprietary learning management system, which we call Rio Learn. We have three main analytics initiatives taking place at Rio. Our homegrown predictive analytics, Riopace, our work with the Predictive Analytics Reporting Framework, or PAR, and most recently our work with Civitas to enhance not only predictive analytics, but additional student data as well. So why analytics? At Rio Salado, we have three main reasons for using analytics. One, we wanted to be predictive. How can we predict student success in their courses or programs? And what do we do with that information? In other words, what interventions should we employ? Two, we wanted to be able to compare our data with like institutions. We know we can learn a lot from each other by collaborating and communicating our own findings and challenges. And three, we want to be more proactive in making our decisions and determining future directions for the college. So to talk about each of our projects, we'll start with Riopace. Riopace stands for Progress and Course Engagement, and it's our homegrown predictive analytics system. We started off by asking ourselves the three questions on the screen. Which factors are effective as early predictors? Can we predict course outcomes using data that we can retrieve from our SIS and LMS? And how do we respond once we determine that a student is at risk? We started by looking at several predictors, but narrowed it down to three main factors. Logins, so the frequency of logins to the course section homepage. Site engagement, the frequency of LMS activities that suggest at least some level of course engagement. So for example, opening up a lesson or viewing assignment feedback. And pace, the total points submitted for grading out of the total points possible for the course at that point in time. We started the pilot phase in April 2010, and we started with instructor-only access to the data. Instructors could see an icon next to the students in the roster, which is red, yellow, or green, with a student-facing view in fall of 2011. In the pilot statuses, the data were refreshed weekly, but we've since changed it to daily. The information is now integrated within an instructor's course roster in Rio Learn, and the data are compared to past data to determine a student's status. So if a student is green, he or she is exhibiting behaviors that other successful students have displayed in the past. If a student is yellow, he or she could improve upon these behaviors. And if a student is red, then he or she is not exhibiting successful behaviors. It is important to note that this isn't a grade predictor. A student can have an A or a B and be yellow or even red. When a student clicks on their green, yellow, or red indicator in Rio Learn, a pop-up appears indicating which of the three predictors are at risk, so login, site engagement, or pace. Knowing our students' behavior in their individual courses works great, but we wanted to learn more. Joining the PAR community has helped us by collaborating with and learning from other institutions. Our work with PAR has allowed us to identify other predictors that can be used with our students, to collaborate with other institutions to further refine our own algorithms in our Riopace dataset, and to compare our data with both like and different institutions so we can communicate and collaborate on solutions, and to track interventions and help determine their success. We know this has been a very valuable project to be a part of. Riopace tells us how a student is doing on a per-class basis, and the data are only viewable by the instructor and the student. So we wanted to work with Civitas, which will bring our data analysis to an entirely new level. Like our work with PAR, Civitas will provide enhanced, robust predictive analytics and will allow us to collaborate with other institutions on our data analytics journey. What we are most excited about is the fact that the data are student-focused. We will be able to not only view student performance in a given class, but across courses and programs. We will also be able to identify at-risk course sections, toxic course combinations, and much more. We believe that using these enhanced data sets will allow us to make more proactive decisions rather than reacting to historical data, which is what we're currently doing. We have learned that predictive analytics is a moving target. Just when we think we have the perfect algorithm in Riopace, for example, we find an anomaly that we need to correct or account for. We have also learned the importance of community. We learn more from our other institutions and their work with their students than we could ever learn alone. We have also learned that interventions are critical. It is one thing to know which students are at risk, but it is quite another to actually do something about it. And finally, we have learned that some of the challenges of data mining is you have to work not only with your LMS, but your SIS and your own technology security processes and restrictions. So in the future, we want to move beyond course data and look at more holistic student data, which we believe we'll be able to do with our work with Civitas specifically as well. We want to start tracking our own interventions and measuring their success, and that's related to much of the PAR work that we're doing. And ultimately, we want to use data to increase student success, persistence, and completion.
Okay.
So I believe now we are taking some time, Matthew.
Yes, thank you very much, Jennifer. That was great. You know, it's been an incredible journey for Rio thus far. I had as Megan mentioned earlier, I was CTO with Rio Salado at the time when they released Riopace and had an opportunity to work with that product. And it's a great pleasure for me being able to come back and work with them again with Civitas to kind of take early work and kind of take it to the next level. We're going to open up the questions. If you have questions, please feel free to add them into the chat pod on the page. Be happy to bring those out to Jennifer about her conversation. What I will start with you, Jennifer, a question just for me. Currently, how are you tracking your intervention success within the institution?
Thanks, Matthew. Currently, we work very closely now with the PAR framework student success matrix. and I know that we're involved with entering interventions into that system, and so we're at the very beginning stages of really tracking them and determining their success. Also, part of our Wave 3B grant through EDUCAUSE and the Gates Foundation, we're implementing a system that we're calling GIVER, or Guided Intervention and Response System. And that system actually is going to send alerts to instructors, advisors, faculty members when a student is at risk or has exhibited some behaviors that will require an intervention. So for example, if they're placed in developmental education classes, if they continuously call the technology help desk, if their Riopace data goes from green to yellow or yellow to red, and it'll send this alert to the people that need to intervene. The intervention will take place, it will be logged and recorded in the GIVER system, and we'll be able to circle back then and compare what the interventions were to the student's success in that particular course that the intervention was implemented in. And we're hoping that that will help us create some correlations and really track the effectiveness.
Okay, great. You actually moved right into one of the questions that came in while you were speaking about the sort of interventions you were providing for online students. Anything else you'd like to add to that before we move on to another one?
Really, you know, there's quite a few, and I don't have the list right in front of me, but the other variables that we're looking at, like I mentioned, technology help desk, referrals from counseling, grades in the course, Riopace status, calls to our instructional help desk, referrals from faculty members, even things that the student might say a more affective array. So for example, they might tell their faculty member that they have some family crisis that they're dealing with. So we're looking at lots of variables and how we could intervene and determine how those interventions will, how successful they are. Okay.
Great, thank you very much. We have a question from Dennis at Thomas Edison State College about the data that is used with Civitas for creating the predictions. In our model, the data is sent to Civitas and run through a process to create specific predictions for the institution, and then brought back to the institution in institutional applications for the different stakeholders within the college or university. So a question here from Christine at Boise State University. Once an instructor makes an intervention that is different from the original classroom instruction, how will you mark this independent variable to student success?
That's a very good question, and that's where we're just beginning really looking at the interventions and how we're going to mark them. We're going to log them in that GIVER system, and we have, basically it's going to be in the student affairs side of the house where the advisors are going to track the interventions and go back and look at their success. What we want to do is for those interventions that take place because of a specific course, so for example, they go to tutoring several times for the course, or their PACE status goes down in that specific course. We will mark that in our intervention dashboard, and then we can go back and see if their grades improved, if they were successful completers of the course, and that kind of thing. For the variables that aren't necessarily course specific, so students in crisis, they have technology problems, things like that, we'll be able to go back into the system, and what we're really going to look at there is successful completion of their courses in the current term, but also their persistence from term to term. So that's one of the variables we'll be looking at to see if the interventions, if there's a correlation. I know we can't determine the causation necessarily, but for those students that we implemented those interventions, did they end up successfully completing their courses, and did they persist and take additional courses with us?
Okay, great. When we're talking about data-driven decisions, would you say right now you're more reactive or proactive?
Right now we're definitely more reactive. We've been focusing on that student course data with our Riopace system. and so you see the flag and the students go down, we intervene. The students go up, we send an intervention, where we say, great job, continue what you're doing. We're hoping that our work with Civitas specifically is going to help us become more proactive, so we can see, for example, which course combinations create less student success. So when we advise them, we'll be able to tell them, you might not want to take English 101 with Bio 2 101 because they're both very heavy courses and students aren't successful when they take them both at the same time necessarily. So we hope that our work actually with Civitas is going to help us be a lot more proactive.
Great, and let's see, a final question for you. How do students and faculty react to your work in predictive analytics?
They've been reacting very well. I know at first with some of our pilots, when the students saw the flag and as red, green, or yellow, they kind of got a little bit apprehensive, especially if the symbol did not match their grade. As I mentioned, a student could have an A in the course but be yellow. A student could have a B and be red because maybe they log in once a week, print out everything they need to have, and they don't log in again until the end of the week when they do their assessment. Some students operate that way, and that's going to contribute to their pay status. So students, it's all about educating them. We've since created a page on our website with a video explaining exactly how it works that's available to students and the instructors and faculty so they could understand it. And with that and those explanations, it's much more palatable for the students. The faculty have always been very supportive of it and feel that it really helps them take that personal care of the students in their class.
Okay, thank you very much, Jennifer. I don't think, let's see. We have a couple of final questions coming in here. What is the scope of the team's expertise you need for this project?
Oh, we need the brains. I'm kind of very high level, but we've got data analysts, we've got programmers, we've got business analysts that work on some of it. We've got faculty that are involved with the planning. So it really takes a wide range, but we do have those data analysts and programmers. We have one dedicated analyst specifically for the Riopace project, and that's all he works on. And he's working with PAR as well. But that's, we've devoted resources to this initiative.
Great. Well, thank you, Jennifer. We're going to move the discussion over to Karen from the University of Maryland University College. She's been a partner, UMUC has been a partner with Civitas for quite a while now. I've had a chance to do some great work together, and Karen, let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. Like Jennifer said, we're very excited to be here and share with you a little bit about what UMUC is doing, and thank both WCET and Civitas for pulling this together. Yes, UMUC, for those of you that don't know us, is a pioneer in adult and distance education since 1947. We're one of the 11 accredited degree granting institutions at the University System of Maryland, but we are primarily online, somewhat similar to the makeup that Jennifer described.
While we're waiting for Karen to join us again, looks like she had some network difficulties. I guess we can open it back up. Are there any further questions for Jennifer with Rio Salado College?
Matthew, I do see one that came through asking if the Giver system was homegrown or a third-party service. And it is homegrown. We are able to create it based on our work with the NGLC Wave 3B grant. The reason we tend to go with homegrown systems is we do have our own proprietary LMS, and so it communicates very well when we're able to build them on the same system, which is really based on SharePoint.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And Karen, are you back with us now?
this is unusual, and again, apologies. UMUC actually built an analytics process about 4 years ago. We didn't get heavy into actually establishing an Office of Analytics or using partners until a little bit later. But there is a real plus for where our analytics came from. It came from our current president, who at that time was the Senior VP for Institutional Research and Effectiveness. So as you can understand, that leadership for analytics comes from the top down. So we set up an Office of Analytics. We still have an Office for Institutional Research. And in the time period that we've been working at this, we've created a culture of evidence-based, data-driven decision-making within the administration. I think that what Jennifer is sharing with you is how they've gotten it to the instructors is absolutely wonderful. We've actually not gotten to that step yet, and that's something we're working toward. So how we've built our analytics tool set is we had first the Office of Analytics that we invested in. We did partner early with Civitas Learning as one of their early pioneer partners. We created a cross-functional steering committee and an academic intervention team. We joined PAR, the Predictive Analytics Research Framework, which Jennifer also talked about, in the second wave. So we were one of the implementing institutions. And then through grant funding, we've also built a transfer student data mart with 2 community colleges. That's been particularly also very important because knowing more about the data from our community college transfer students actually.
Jennifer, while we're waiting for Karen to come back on, is there anything you'd like to add to the work you've done to this point, or some of the other future directions for Rio Salado College?
Sure. You know, some of the future directions, as we as I mentioned, we are really wanting to focus on those interventions and tracking them and looking at their success. And I do believe, you know, as part of our systems also to use analytics for degree mapping and for looking at students' progress towards degree. I know Civitas is going to help us a lot with that. And so, you know, really the theme is interventions, being proactive, helping support the students not just in their courses but in their persistence and completion.
Okay. There was a question that came in a little bit ago in regards to the financial investment. I'm guessing that question was in regards to the Civitas products and the data platform. That's something, if you'd like, we can have a conversation offline. That's more for our partnership directors to discuss than my role working with our active partners to implement the products on their institution. Okay. Let's see, Karen, do you want to try again now?
Let me just keep moving along. The Civitas work that we're doing has been really, really exciting. We're looking at pilots that we've done in terms of academic and advising pilot where we're messaging to students who are at risk. So we're using the population of certain kinds of classes which we determine to have students who are at risk. That work has not always been easy. First of all, we had to learn a lot about our messaging. Not always is our messaging as good as we wanted it to be, so it's taken a few iterations. And in the meantime, I heard Jennifer did say that one of the reasons they built a homegrown system is because the LMS data changed. Well, we changed LMS systems, so it took a little bit of time for both us as well as us to get the information back to Civitas. So we kind of put a hold on that pilot, but we did see some results, and that's the kind of work we hope to continue doing. We're actually doing some market segmentation. Now, we are an open access institution, but what this means for us is that we have a better risk score and persistence score on people who are coming to us. So then we can actually give them better information aligned to their needs. And then we're going to continue development of those new tools that Civitas can talk a little bit about. But we're very interested, as I was trying to mention before, you know, in getting some of this tested with our faculty, as well as making sure our students have access to some of those things like degree maps. We think that will make a big difference for them. So in our Kresge grant, which was funded by the Kresge Foundation but was all about transfer students, we were able to determine, and again, this is just with.
And while we're waiting, if anyone would like to start putting questions into the chat box, I'll go ahead and identify those and be able to have that ready when we get to the Q&A section of Karen's presentation. We'll also at the end be able to further the questions if we'd like to do any global questions across Rio Salado and UMUC and their presentations about their work to this point. Okay. We do have one question that has come in, and maybe Jennifer, you can respond to this. Any examples of where analytics efforts have gone beyond pilots to more broadly be more broadly distributed across the entire institution?
Sure. You know, we are still piloting some additional. We did put our Riopace throughout the institution and found that we needed to do some tweaks. And so we're piloting again. But our pilot, as part of our grant work with the MGLC grant, one of the main reasons we're continuing to pilot is not because of issues with the algorithm, but more because we want to compare the grant population to our general population. But our grant population is nearly 4,000 students. So even though we're still in the pilot phase, we are using quite a bit of student data. And we definitely hope on releasing it very soon to the entire college as we work on sustainability and of the grant and increasing that population.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a question coming in from Capella. Jennifer, can you talk a bit more about Rio Salado's PAR experience and the way you brought it back to your institution?
Sure. You know, we were one of the original members of PAR and helped by sharing our data with the data from the other institutions for them to be able to create the different reporting frameworks and the comparative data. What we're doing with our institution right now is we're able to use the dashboard that they've created to narrow down our data and how we compare with the other institutions to really help us. And it's not necessarily at the institution level, but like institutions. So we can look at other online two-year colleges and compare our student data to theirs. And where that is helping us is to really see who is like us, where we're different, and then communicate with our partner institutions to gather ideas on, well, how come your success is so much better than ours in this area, or they come to us and ask the same question. And so we're able to really collaborate, and I think that's the biggest way we're bringing that back to the institution.
Okay, and I think we've got Karen back with us. So Karen, you want to continue on from there?
Okay, I'm trying to move the slides forward. There we go. So turning insights into action. I do want to go back again and share the same kind of insight that Jennifer did. Don't expect every one of your actions or interventions to actually be significant. And that's one of the lessons that we learn in higher education. It's pretty hard not to want an impact, but this is not easy business. We need the science that a Civitas gives to us, but we also need the kind of willingness to try and do student success in a way that allows us to actually probably have a few failures, because trying to figure out what's the best thing for our students is going to take some time.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. And we understand with technology issues, I'm sure all of us have been through there before. So I'm just glad we got you back and being able to have you part of the conversation still. One of the questions coming in through the chat queue, as analytics are implemented, are new requirements for faculty and their use of the LMS being introduced?
I'll be honest, we haven't quite gotten that far. So when we introduced the new LMS, we had all kinds of new faculty training, but what we haven't gotten to is actually creating a dashboard for faculty, and we're looking forward to being able to pilot some of those kinds of opportunities where faculty who want to get a certain amount of training would actually help us with our student success initiative. Civitas, and maybe Matthew, you want to share a little bit more about some of the success you've had in this area, but in our opinion, we don't want to give faculty data about student risk scores. What we want is to improve engagement in the classroom.
Yeah, what I would add to that is, as Jennifer talked about in the Riopace project, it's more around the engagement within the academic, within the course, rather than a grade A, B, C, D. In our products, the main, in our faculty product that works within the LMS data, it is looking at the engagements and how the student is engaging compared to other students in that course. So as Karen said, it's not looking at the risk and not trying to bias faculty. It's giving a point of what is that engagement and how is that impacting the work they're doing within that course. Now, Karen, we do have a question. Someone asked, I guess because of the audio problems, we're going to go back one slide to your predictors of first term GPA. And if you could speak a little bit further about that slide. There are a few questions in the chat field about that content.
Oh, okay. So the kind of work that we had to do in order to get to that kind of understanding was we really took in massive data sets from our community college partners. And in those massive data sets, what we were trying to determine were the predictors. So a lot like what the predictive analytics framework did. So that what you basically do is you look through a ton of data, a very specific term, right? But you actually look through the data in order to see what particular variable is actually giving you some indication of whether or not that student will be successful. When we're doing this with Civitas, obviously we're looking at very private data, but when we're doing this with Kresge, we were actually sharing it with Montgomery Community College and also Prince George's, and we are very grateful to our community colleges that actually helped us determine what are those important factors, and we're continuing to iterate in this process. So it's really a lot of work that goes into getting some very basic predictors. And I would actually refer the audience to look at the work that WCET did with PAR, because you will find that there are also really good predictors that you can look at through that particular project as well.
Okay, great. One other question we have here, are the variables all based on student characteristics, or are institutional barriers, faculty issues, or other non-student variables part of the process?
So in this case, they were all based on student variables.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, Karen, what do you say comes first, the tools, culture, or research?
So it always feels like you want everything at once. For us, our history in this is that we had a leader as the Senior VP of our Institutional Research and Effectiveness who actually did the research on where our institution needs to go to. As you may understand, like Rio, we're an open access institution. And because of that, we have a lot of students of varying skill levels. And in order to actually help them complete, we had to know a lot more about them. So I think the research comes first. But once you have the research, then you really have to do both at the same time. You have to be willing to invest in tools, whether that is, additional software, whether that's partners like Civitas, partners like PAR, and the people that can actually internalize that information.
Okay. Now, when you're looking at the kind of influence the culture, how do you push forward on a culture of data-driven decision making within your institution?
So pushing forward to build this, again, I think it takes realizing you have a problem. So for many of us, and there are some great institutions when I was able to see the list on this call who have less of a completion problem than we would. As an adult learning institution and open access institution. But that was really it. When we first saw our achievement gap results, which we were working on a report for the state as well as the federal government, we knew we had to do something better. We think we did a good job in the classroom, but we really didn't have the data to move forward. So I think it's being honest and transparent about the data, which sort of gets me back to, applauding what Rio has done in making sure that data actually gets down as far as the faculty.
Okay, that's great. Now, when you're starting to use this data, where do you focus in interventions first? So for us, we were focusing interventions on things that could be done sort of around the classroom. And what that meant for us is how could we be more efficient and effective with advising coupled with academic directors. Again, as a pioneering institution, many of you will probably assume that our faculty are adjunct, and many of them are. So actually, we thought it was easier to rely on our staff, that is our full-time staff, to actually help us figure out student success. However, that was the initial phase of where we went. As we've dug into this more, we truly believe we have to do some course redesign. So I'm not sure there's a one place to start. Messaging is still very important to us, but we've actually come to the conclusion that some of our courses need to be redesigned in order to get better results, and that will actually give us a bigger lift. And I just might mention, before we even got into analytics in 2010, we did a redesign for all of our undergraduate courses, moving from 15 weeks to 8 weeks. And we have seen about a 5% increase in course completion as a result of that. So again, we have some internal research that says this is the way to go for us. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. I'm going to open it up for any final questions to for both Jennifer or Karen. Please go ahead and put those into the chat box. And it looks like we're not getting much in at this point. I think we've had a very full conversation today, a lot of great information shared. Megan, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much to Matthew, Karen, and Jennifer, and thank you all for your generous patience in hanging in there with us. I've not had these problems before, but I guess you just never know with technology. So if this is your first WCET webcast, I encourage you to stay tuned for more webcasts or visit some of our archives. We have a great collection of very valuable webcasts on essential topics. Visit our website, wcet.wichi.edu, to learn more about our Connect, Learn, Advance agenda. We have lots of great resources posted frequently. We have a new document that is very, very critical on accessibility and what you should be doing at your institution. Consider joining us in Portland next month for our annual meeting. And if you're not a WCET member, do consider joining. We provide very up-to-date news digests on academics, technology, and policy. So we sift through all of the email digests that come through, and we pull out the most important and send those to you. Also, discounts on our activities and services. Stay tuned for more webcasts. We don't have any scheduled for the duration of the year, but I'm working very hard on an excellent program for next year. We already have January, February, March, and April books, so stay tuned for information about that. And again, thank you to Blackboard Collaborate for making the platform available. Thank you to our supporting members who do so much to underwrite our work here at WCET. Thank you to our annual sponsors, Blackboard, CourseSmart, VitalSource, and Pearson Learning Solutions. Again, thank you to everyone for participating today, and we look forward to seeing you at the annual meeting or on more webcasts next year. Thanks, everybody.